Happy Monday, everyone. So we are going to get right into it. We are going to talk about our 7-day market update, just like we do every other Monday, okay? So we're going to go over the factors that played into this last 7 days in the real estate market for the Sioux Empire. So if you are not in the Sioux Empire, these figures and average sales price, etc., may not apply to you. So let's get into it. There were 126 new listings that hit the market in the last 7 days. That is phenomenal news. The average list price of those properties was $241,250. That is a great price, and I assume there were a lot of very excited first-time home buyers that actually maybe found their dream home this last week. There were 71 homes that went pending. Now, we've talked about that every single week, so I know you know what that means. That means that basically every portion of that purchase agreement, every due diligence period has been conquered. Every, negotiation that could possibly take place has been completed. They have, received their clear to close and probably will be closing within the next 48 hours. The average, let's talk about the solds. I'm sure you want to know the solds. How many sold? 140 homes sold in the last 7 days. So that is phenomenal news. We definitely still, and you can see in these figures from, every week, if you go back to my last market update last Monday, you can kind of see these figures. And that they're on average, there has been between 130 to 140, properties listed every single week, and 140 at minimum have sold every single week. So we definitely are still selling off that stock very quickly. The average sold price was around $243,950. Okay, so those are all exciting figures. I hope everyone is excited about those. Now, one of the things that I really wanted to talk about today, because even in this crazy seller's market, certain things still apply, okay? We still have to be worried about things that could come up subject to during the appraisal process, okay? We need to be concerned about how your home is looking, if it's prepped to actually sell. And so some of the things that I saw the last couple of weeks really were a little bit off-putting, because just because we are in this crazy seller's market, that does not mean that you can list your house, not clean it, have, no preparation whatsoever with your realtor, not have a plan for showings, not have a plan for how any of it's going to go. You need to be prepared, especially since this is a seller's market. You should be prepared. So a couple of weeks ago, I showed this property. It obviously sold very quickly. It was in a very competitive price point, okay? My hair is just not doing it today. But we went and looked at, I took my client to this property to show it, okay? It was very difficult to get in because it was very clear that the seller just wasn't ready. It was very clear that the property should not have been put on the MLS yet. It was very clear that her and her realtor had maybe not even discussed how the process works, okay? One of the things that I usually do is I set up my listing appointment or my showing appointments for my seller. Now, some of that's going to be changing soon with showing time, and we'll get into that later this week. But anyway, this person just was not ready to sell. They didn't have the documents that we needed to see, like the seller's property disclosure, which they have to, submit to MLS for all realtors and buyers to see. They didn't have that. They weren't prepared. We showed up to the house. We were told that we were going to be the first appointment, and we had to wait a whole day to get into the property. We were told we were going to be the first property, first showing. We show up, and there's already somebody inside. So my client was already very upset because we had tried to make sure we were the first ones in the property. We knew it was going to sell quickly, so we wanted to act accordingly, okay? And so we walked into the property, and it definitely wasn't ready. If this wasn't a seller's market, that home would not have sold. I guarantee it. And you really have to be prepared that, even if an offer fell through and you have to have people back through your house, you have to have your house in a certain state that is still going to be appealing to buyers. They want to know that you're taking great care of that home. So we walked through the property. It's very dirty. And everyone's idea of clean is very, very different. However, Walls were dirty, baseboards were dirty, vents were dirty, fans were dirty. There was dust everywhere. There were cobwebs everywhere. There were dog feces covering the entire backyard. It was just very off-putting. It was a very off-putting property because it was very obvious that it wasn't prepped to sell, that it was very rushed, that maybe that agent didn't necessarily take the time and the consideration to explain the process to the seller. So we got in there, we looked at the property. We were going to submit an offer. We did, in fact, submit an offer on this property. And then all of a sudden it was, oh, we don't know when we could go through offers. Like, none of these details were on the MLS because everything was like fly by the seat of your pants. Well, in this seller's market, your seller has to be prepared for how things are going. And if you're the agent listing that property, you're not presenting yourself to even the other buyers looking at the property very well. When they're coming through and they're seeing that things aren't completed, things aren't ready. I mean, it was just all over the place, not ready to go. Okay, so here's my advice. No matter what, even though we're in a seller's market, you need to price your home competitively, because I have seen a few homes the last 2 weeks that have went on, and they have went on very, very high, way more than what the actual market value of these properties are. And what happened to them was some of them even had properties under contract. Okay, so they needed to sell their house and they needed to sell it quick. But it got into their head that this is a seller's market, so someone's going to buy it no matter what. Someone's going to act quickly. We don't have to worry about this. But yes, you do have to worry about this, because some of those people, it took them almost 14 days to get that house under contract, and they almost lost their other property. So you have to be prepared for what's going on. So number one, this is what you need to do in the seller's market, no matter what these apply, okay? You need to price competitively around market value, because that is going to drive traffic to your property, number one. And number two, you want the most amount of people to go through the first couple of days so that you're not put out of your home continuously over the next 14 days, right? That is the goal. If your realtor is marketing your property effectively and properly, you will not have this problem. So another thing is, you have to prep your house to sell. If your agent does not go through your property and give you a list of things that you absolutely need to complete in order to get this home photographed and on the market, then you maybe need to interview a few more, because presenting your home to the public properly is key in this market, especially since it's a seller's market. Because if you are wanting people to come in and get multiple offers and get a lot of attention to your house right away, you need to be prepared for it. And, people are going to nitpick your house if they see that it's not as well maintained as maybe they had hoped, okay? So the next thing is, you really have to have a plan. You cannot have your house listed and not have a plan. So whenever I sit down with the seller, I go through how things are going to go. We talk about who would be best to schedule these showing appointments. Would it be me? Would it be them? How do they want to handle that? What are they comfortable with? How do they want to communicate with me? That's key as well, because this is about them. This whole process is about your seller. And if you're not doing these extra little things, you're really doing them a disservice. So part of the plan as well should be what day we're going on the market, what day we're getting photographs done. They need to have their expectations just as I do, okay? So if we're going on the market on a Friday, they need to have a plan for what they're going to do, especially if they have a family. What are they going to do for 4 to 6 hours, or, the rest of the night? Do they have somewhere to go? Could they go on a quick little vacay? Could they do that? Could they get the pets out of the house and do that? You need to have a plan, because your goal really should be to get that property under contract within that first 24 hours, because you're going to get more profit that way. You're going to obviously sell it quicker. You're going to be less put out of your home, and it's going to be less disruption, okay? And then that moves you on. If you haven't found a house yet, that allows you to immediately start that process so that you're not lagging as well. So you have to have a plan. So do not think because this is a seller's market that you can just go on the market willy-nilly, etc. I've even seen, houses coming on where they're not even professionally photographed. That to me is a complete disservice, because we are getting paid to properly market these properties, and we really need to make sure that even though it's a crazy seller's market, that we are still treating these listings just as if we were in a buyer's market. just as if they might sit for 2 to 3 days longer. We have to have that mindset, and so does the seller. Be prepared, because at any point, if you've ever sold real estate before, something could happen, especially with the last year that we have seen. Someone could lose their job out of nowhere, and they might not qualify for financing, and then you have to find a whole new buyer. So you need to make sure that no matter when you list your property, it is actually going on like it's going on its first date, okay? That's how I tell everyone. And when people say to me, how do I need to prepare my property? I say, just pretend your house is going on a first date, because that is exactly how we want it to look. That is exactly how we want it to present. There's no ifs, ands, or buts with that, because that will get you the most amount of attention, and the most the highest top dollar, I should say. So we have to keep all of these things in mind. And having that plan is so key, because it's very frustrating, especially in a seller's market, when, we have clients as buyer's agents even, and we want to submit an offer, but there's no game plan. There's nothing in place. They're not accepting offers. They don't have any instructions for us. You really want to make sure you're interviewing your realtors and picking the right one that is actually going to represent you and your property to the public in the best manner. So keep all of these things in mind. If you have any questions about how this process goes, do not hesitate to reach out to me and drop a comment below. I am just heading to the gym here soon, so that's why you get to see my t-shirt. So I hope you guys have a fabulous rest of your day. And if you have questions, drop them below. I'll come back and answer them. Many of you reach out to me via private message, and that is perfectly fine. But go enjoy this beautiful day that we're having. Talk to you tomorrow.